And one thing I'm struck by is that President Trump, if he were any other president, would be advised very strongly to shut up and to stop talking, because the new arguments that he makes, first of all, setting a standard that he can't meet, claiming there's no quid pro quo when there appears to be evidence of it.
Oh, going to interrupt, Susan, only because the tape is coming in. Let's listen to what President Trump has to say about this today.
Numbers just came out, and they're the best numbers we've had in over 50 years. The unemployment number is down to 3.5%, so that goes way, way back. We haven't had numbers like this in a long time. Wages are up by almost 3%. That's a fantastic increase for everybody out there working. We're very happy about those numbers. The stock market is substantially up as it was yesterday, and our country does well. Europe is not doing well. Asia is doing poorly, to put it mildly. And we continue to do very well with a miracle. But the unemployment numbers just came out, 3.5% unemployment, and that is a tremendous number, the lowest in over 50 years. So very happy, and I think really very important. Again, I'll say, wages are up. When I was running, wages were nowhere. They were going down. And people were having 2 and 3 jobs, and they were making less money than they made 20 years before. Now wages are up, so we're very happy about that. One other thing having to do with Poland. So Poland is a country, great people. We have a lot of Polish Americans living in the United States. I've just signed, I will soon be signing, and signed certain preliminary applications. We will be giving a full visa waiver to Poland. That means that people from Poland can easily travel there, and people from here can easily go back and forth. They can each. People from the U.S., people from Poland can very easily go back and forth between the United States and Poland. So they've been trying to get this for many, many decades. And I got it for the Polish people, in honor of the Polish people in the United States and in Poland. So we're very happy with that, yeah.
Adam Schiff got 4 Pinocchios by the Post this morning for lying.
Well, I heard Adam Schiff got 4 Pinocchios. That's good. He should have gotten them 2.5 years ago. That's a very nice question. Let me shake your hand. Come here. That's a very nice question.
What did you think?
That's almost a surprise. I figured that was a trick question, right?
Also, what's your letter to the Pelosi say? When will you
Well, we'll be issuing a letter. As everybody knows, we've been treated very unfairly, very different from anybody else. If you go over not only history, I mean, you go over any aspect of life, you'll see how unfairly we've been treated. We've done a fantastic job. Everything to me is about corruption. We want to find out what happened with 2016, and as you know, there's a lot of work going on in that. I don't care about Biden's campaign, but I do care about corruption. His campaign, that's up to him. Politics, that's up to them. I don't care about politics. Politics, as I think I made clear, and yesterday somebody asked me a question, and I gave an answer, but always in the form of corruption. What I want to do, and I think I have an obligation to do it, probably a duty to do it, corruption. We are looking for corruption. When you look at what Biden and his son did, and when you look at other people, what they've done, and I believe there was tremendous corruption with Biden, but I think there was beyond corruption, having to do with the 2016 campaign. And what these lowlifes did to so many people, to hurt so many people in the Trump campaign, which was successful despite all of the fighting us. I mean, despite all of the unfairness. So we are looking at corruption. We're not looking at politics. We're looking at corruption.
What did you say to the Chinese about the Biden, sir?
I don't know. Somebody said that a long time ago. Was that in 2017? I don't know. You'd have to tell me when. All I can tell you this, when I speak to foreign leaders, I speak in an appropriate way. If you notice, they don't mention the call that I had with the president of Ukraine. They don't mention that because it was so good. The only time they mentioned it was when Adam Schiff made it up. You talk about Pinocchios, that should get 10 Pinocchios. He made up a story. It was a phony story, Adam Schiff. So they don't talk about that anymore. You know, when this came out, it was quid pro quo. Well, there was none. Also, yesterday, the ambassador, who I heard was tremendous and a tremendous person. He was 100% for what we're saying, 100%. And if you look, he also said there was no quid pro quo. That's the whole ballgame. But now the Democrats don't bring that up anymore because they lost. Look, they never thought President and myself. When I released that call, they were jumping around like you wouldn't believe. They didn't know how to respond. And then they found out that the call itself was so bad for them. It was a perfect call. There was nothing. We hand that call out. We've handed the call out to people and they say, wow, this is incredible. We're very proud of that call. When I speak to a foreign leader, I speak in an appropriate manner. Now, we're also doing trade deals with China, and we're doing deals with a lot of people for the country. So I'm not looking to insult people, I can tell you that. But we could probably find that out.
Would you be more willing to do a trade deal with the Chinese if they investigate Biden?
No, it has nothing to do with it. No, I want to do a trade deal with China, but only if it's good for our country. And it could happen. As you know, they're very much coming over next week, as I understand it. So I'd like to do a trade deal with China, but only if it's a great trade deal for this country. One thing has nothing to do with the other.
Do you want the House to proceed with an impeachment inquiry at this point, an official impeachment
Well,
inquiry?
I wouldn't mind because we have no rights. The way they're doing it, they've taken away our rights. So if they proceed, and, you know, they'll just get their people, they're all in line, because even though many of them don't want to vote, they have no choice. They have to follow their leadership. And then we'll get it to the Senate, and we're going to win. The Republicans have been very unified. This is the greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. So we beat the one that started immediately. We went through 2 years of Mueller, and that came out like a 10. It came out perfect. And a few days go by, and they start this nonsense. And this is just as ridiculous. So the Democrats, unfortunately, they have the votes. They can vote very easily, even though most of them, many of them, don't believe they should do it. And I do believe that because of what they're doing with Pelosi and their real leaders, AOC +3, that's their real leaders. I really believe that they're going to pay a tremendous price at the polls. And we saw the first glimpse of it 2 weeks ago in a great state, North Carolina. We saw a great glimpse of what's going to happen. Because in North Carolina, we had 2 races. One gentleman, Dan Bishop, was down by 17 points with 3 weeks to go, and he won easily. And the other man, as you know, Greg Murphy, was up by a very little bit, and he won by a massive amount. I don't know, someplace in the 20s, 20% or something, maybe higher. So I think you got your first glimpse of what's going to happen. And the big key is that I have to campaign there. But if you look at what happened in North Carolina, 2 races, we won both of them, and we won them easily. And one was almost tied, and the other one was a big lead. And that one turned, and the tie became a landslide. Well, I don't know about Mitch. I have a lot of respect for Mitch McConnell. I know that I saw his statements, and he thinks that this is ridiculous. He thinks it's unfair. I saw his statement yesterday that he put out where he read my phone conversation, and he thought it was a wonderful conversation, and it was. But see, the Democrats don't talk about that anymore. They try and go to other things. These people are looking for anything they can get because they know they're going to lose the election. And we're in election season now. For them to be doing this now, it's never been done. What?
U.S. is talking North Korea in Sweden right now. What do you expect?
So we're dealing with North Korea. They want to meet, and we'll be meeting with them. It's probably being set up as we speak, but we'll let you know. But North Korea would like to do something. Iran would like to do something. We have a lot of countries in a very good position right now, despite the witch hunt, which hurts our country and it hurts America. But Iran wants to do something, North Korea wants to do something, and China would like to do something.
Department investigating Joe Biden?
I don't know. That you'd have to ask. Is the Justice Department investigating Joe Biden? Well, that you'd have to ask Attorney General Barr. But I can tell you, just as an observer, what I saw Biden do with his son, he is pillaging these countries and he's hurting us. How would you like to have, as an example, Joe Biden negotiating the China deal if he took it over from me after the election? He would give them, he would give them everything. He would give them everything. How would you like to have that? Joe Biden would just roll out the red carpet. He'd give them everything. So again, this doesn't pertain to anything but corruption. And that has to do with me. I don't care about politics. I don't care about anything. But I do care about corruption. And to have somebody take out $1.5 billion out of China, who's totally unfit. He's unfit. To have him get $1.5 billion. To have him, and now I'm hearing the number of $50,000 a month. Now I'm hearing the number of $50,000 a month is very low. It's a much higher number that Biden's son was getting per month. In fact, it's much higher. And for him as a totally unqualified person to be getting hundreds of thousands a month is very, very sad. So again, is the Justice Department investigating that? I just don't know.
President, do you think the Democrats have the vote? Do you think the Democrats have the vote? Do you think you really?
Well, I think they follow the leader. One thing with the Democrats, I give them credit for it. A lot of them don't want it. You know that. You interview them. A lot of them are in, they call them Trump districts, where I won, and then they won after when I wasn't running. But I'm going to win them big. If you look at what's happened with my polls, they're through the roof. You know why? Because of this phony witch hunt. If you look at what happened with the fundraising, we've set a record, the Republicans, because people are sick and tired of it. I got a call the other night from pastors, the biggest pastors, evangelical Christians. They said, we have never seen our religion or any religion so electrified. They say they've never seen anything like it. Churches are joining, hundreds of thousands of people. And you know, that's to a large extent because of you and your partner, the Democrats.
Do you think it'll pass the House, sir? Do you think it'll pass the House and die in the Senate?
Well, I think this. We have a great relationship in the Senate. I have a 95% approval rating in the Republican Party. I believe the Senate, and I haven't spoken to that many senators, but I believe the senators look at this as a hoax. It's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace. Should have never happened. Just like Russia collusion delusion should have never happened. That was a witch hunt. And just like that, should have never happened. So I think in the Senate, I think they feel that the Republican Party has been treated very, very badly. Now, in the House, they have the majority. They all vote with AOC and +3. Nancy Pelosi's petrified of them. I mean, she's afraid she's going to lose her position. Nancy Pelosi will lose her speakership right after the election when the Republicans take over the House.
Sir, can we talk about the text messages that included holding off a visit to
The
the
one
White
text
House?
message that I saw was just about the last text message, because I don't know. I don't even know most of these ambassadors. I didn't even know their names. But the text message that I saw from Ambassador Sondland, who's highly respected, was there's no quid pro quo. He said that. He said, by the way, it almost sounded like in general. He said, by the way, there's no quid pro quo, and there isn't. Now, for Biden, there would be, but listen to this. There is no pro quo. And that was the text message that I saw, and that nullified everything.
What other leaders have you discussed?
Have you had foreign leaders for any corruption investigations that don't involve your political opponents? That is, are there other cases where
we would have to look, but I tell you, what I ask for, and what I always will ask for, is anything having to do with corruption with respect to our country. If a foreign country can help us with respect to corruption and corruption probes, and that, I don't care if it's Biden or anybody else, but if they can help us, if Biden is corrupt, if his son is corrupt, when his son takes out billions of dollars, billions, and he has no experience. He just got fired from the Navy. When they do that, that's no good. So the only, just to finish your question, anything having to do with corruption, I actually feel I have an obligation to do that.
Including with Mr. Putin, sir. Including with Mr.
Is
Putin.
someone advising you that it is okay to solicit the help of other governments to investigate a potential political opponent?
No, I don't say anything's okay. I'll tell you what's
Someone
okay.
advising you that.
Here's what's okay. If we feel there's corruption, like I feel there was in the 2016 campaign, there was tremendous corruption against me. If we feel there's corruption, we have a right to go to a foreign country. And just so you know,
Mr. Putin, sir.
I was investigated.
Mr. Putin as well.
I was investigated. Okay, me, in my campaign, I ran, I won. I was you won't say that, will you? I was investigated. And they think it could have been by UK. They think it could have been by Australia. They think it could have been by Italy. So when you get down to it, I was investigated by the Obama administration. By the Obama administration, I was investigated. So when these people talk, but as far as I'm concerned, what I want to look at and what we want to investigate, anything having to do with corruption. I view China as somebody we're trying to make a deal with. We have a very good chance of making a deal with. We've had good moments with China. We've had bad moments with China. Right now, we're in a very important stage in terms of possibly making a deal. If we make it, it'll be the biggest trade deal ever made, if we make it. But I view China as somebody that we deal with on the world stage. I would like to get along with China if we can. And if we can, that's great. If we can't, that's okay too. But what we're doing is we're negotiating a very tough deal. If the deal's not going to be 100% for us, then we're not going to make it. And I will say this. China very much wants to make this deal. China's getting killed. The tariffs are killing China. What's happened is they have now 3 million loss of jobs. Their chains are broken up. If you look at their supply chain, it's a disaster. Companies are going to other countries, including us. China right now is a total disaster. No. Let me tell you. I'm only interested in corruption. I don't care about politics. I don't care about Biden's politics. I never thought Biden was going to win, to be honest. I picked somebody else a long time ago, and we'll see what happens. But I never thought Biden was going to win. But I don't care. I mean, frankly, if he won, I'd be very happy. I think he'd be an easy opponent. But I never thought Biden was going to win. I don't care about politics. But I do care about corruption. And this whole thing is about corruption. This whole thing is about corruption. This is about corruption, and this is not about politics. This is about corruption. And if you look and you read our Constitution and many other things, I have an obligation to look at corruption. I have an actual obligation and a duty. What?
Are you going to cooperate with the House in this investigation?
I don't know. That's up to the lawyers. I know the lawyers think they've never seen anything so unfair. They've never seen anything so unjust. I've been president now for almost 3 years, and I've been going through this for almost 3 years. It's almost become like a part of my day. But in the meantime, we have the best economy we've ever had. We have the best job numbers we've had in 51 years. The best unemployment numbers that we've had in a half a century. The best numbers that we've ever had. African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, women, everything. We have the best numbers that we've had in many, many, many decades. And you know what? People understand that. People are working. They're making money. If you look at one very important number that was just announced, wages up 3%. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. So it's a great thing. I didn't hear you. Go. We're investigating corruption. We're not investigating campaigns. I don't care about his campaign. As I said, I didn't think, and I don't think Biden's going to win. All right? I don't think. And maybe to answer your question, when you say who is going to win, I'd rather not make a prediction, but I do have a feeling about somebody. But I didn't think, because I've watched Biden over the years, and Biden is not the brightest person. I never thought he was going to win. I never felt he was going to win. If you look at his other two campaigns, he was a one-percenter. He got very few votes. He got taken off of the garbage heap by Obama. Obama took him off the garbage heap. So it's one of those things. But I never thought that I didn't think Biden was going to win. I guess everybody has a shot. But I don't think he would be, frankly, my toughest opponent either. And just to finish off, I don't think that he will win. I didn't think he was going to win, and I don't think he's going to win.
Pretty badly. Elizabeth Warren, 36. What do you think about facing Elizabeth Warren?
It's fine. I mean, it's fine. She's a socialist and maybe worse than that. But we'll see. I haven't seen his poll numbers. I haven't seen Biden's poll numbers. Look, Joe Biden was never going to make it, all right? He was never going to make it. He tried it twice. He's at 1%. There's a reason. When I announced, I went to number one, day one, and I stayed there the entire primary season. I never was off center stage. I was never given credit for that, but that's okay, except by Steve. The only one that gave me credit was Steve. Who? No, they were trying to set up a meeting, but he wanted sanctions lifted, and I said, you must be kidding. We had no interest. Rouhani wanted a meeting at the UN. We did talk. I didn't speak to him personally, but our sides talked. He wanted sanctions lifted or partially lifted, and I said no.
Democrats say that you are using the socialism in Venezuela for your political campaign.
We're watching Venezuela very, very closely. The people are suffering, and we are watching it very closely. We're also giving big aid to Venezuela. Now, one thing, I'm now going to Walter Reed Hospital. We're going to be giving out 5 Purple Hearts to unbelievably brave young people. And I'm going to meet you. Some of you are going over. I don't know. I think some of you are going over. So we can talk further over there. Although when we're there, I would like you to respect the process. We're giving out Purple Hearts to very brave people, wounded warriors, people that have been, they're just incredible people. And I'm going to be back here in probably 2 hours.
Sir, do you have an impeachment strategy? Sir, do you have an impeachment strategy?
All right, so the president, greatest hits of President Trump just now, and the president said a lot, as he always does. First and foremost, let's do the one fact check that matters at this very moment. Despite what the president has said repeatedly over and over again about his political rival Joe Biden, there has been no evidence of wrongdoing from either Joe Biden or Hunter Biden with regard to anything that the president is focusing on here. And while the president is now suggesting and presenting himself as a fierce champion of corruption, I think maybe the most important thing that was asked and said in this very lengthy back and forth is the following. When a reporter asks, have you asked foreign leaders that don't involve your political opponents? The president says, we would have to look, and then cites no other examples except for Joe Biden. Let's get back to this right now. Susan Glasser, can I bring you back in, please? Susan, this is always one of those moments that I don't feel like I always mess up the metaphor and the analogy. You can miss the forest for the trees. What did we just watch play out? What is important for people to remember about all of this?
Well, first of all, Kate, you're right about the metaphors. I mean, it is exhausting to subject yourself to watch the president in full like that. And it's still, to me, even 3 years into it, it is remarkable. You have a president who is a unique combination of grievance and attack and aggression, spewing forth a lot of misinformation, along with very clearly he had something he wanted to say this morning, which is that somehow this is not political and I'm only caring about corruption. There's no record to support that, of course, in
just to
almost 3
interject,
years of
Susan, I think
administration.
you're highlighting something important. I think what we're seeing today, whereas we saw the beginnings of a new impeachment defense strategy yesterday, which is I did it, I'll do it again. I think today we're seeing the next chapter of it, which is it's not about politics, it's about corruption.
Yeah, so he repeated that, by my count, at least 4 or 5 times, number one. Number two, he did say at the very beginning there was no quid pro quo. I think that is something that's been challenged overnight by the release of these text messages as well as voluminous evidence. He continues, by the way, to assert over and over again that his phone call with the Ukrainian president July 25th was a perfect phone call. And yet, of course, that is a key piece of the evidence that is now being assembled against him in the House's impeachment inquiry. And he confirmed the reporting, essentially, that they're choosing a very confrontational strategy with the House of Representatives. He is relying almost exclusively here on his political reading of the Senate, the Republican Senate, as being a bulwark behind him. So far, we have not heard rousing defenses from Republicans in the Senate as this new information has come out, but we have heard silence. We haven't heard criticism of the president either. So that's the political dynamic, I think, that we're all watching right now.
Let's hit on that. And Melanie, thank you so much for sticking by. This has been welcome to the 11 o'clock hour, the wild ride, the roller coaster that we ride. But the text messages, what the president said this morning about the letter that he's going to be sending back to Nancy Pelosi, saying essentially, I dare you to go to the floor unless and until you're not getting anything from us, just kind of making very clear the standoff is going to be happening that everyone assumed would be coming. But the question is, with what we see in these text messages coming out, it puts the focus once again, written word of officials repeatedly raising concerns that they were being asked to hold up military aid and more until Ukraine agreed to investigate Joe Biden. And with that, that puts the focus squarely back on Capitol Hill. And it seems a harder position for Republicans to be in to defend.
You're absolutely right. This essentially blows up their entire strategy. They put all of their eggs in the no quid pro quo basket. And they've said, look, maybe the call was inappropriate and maybe the president shouldn't have brought up Biden in the call with Ukraine, but it didn't rise to an impeachable offense because there was no evidence of a quid pro quo arrangement. But I think these text messages completely challenge that. In fact, it clearly spells out that the Trump administration was only going to give a meeting to the president of Ukraine, who really wanted this meeting, if they agreed to investigate Biden and the 2016 election. And not only that, but they also wanted a public statement. The New York Times reported that 2 of those diplomats actually had a hand in crafting a statement that never went out. But the Trump administration put so much effort on getting a strong public statement out there. Rudy Giuliani also reportedly wanted them to specifically mention the gas company that Biden's son was on. So that just goes to show where their interests were. Why did they care so much about the statement? Why couldn't Ukraine just privately carry on this investigation if all you cared about was corruption? And back to Susan's point, you're really starting to hear Trump hammer in on the idea that I didn't even view Biden as a political rival. I don't even think he has a shot. And he's really trying to distance himself from the fact that this had anything to do with politics, and he's trying to make it all about corruption.
You're ending on you're perfectly transitioning, because I want to get back over to Jeremy Diamond. He's at the White House on the exact point that Melanie is raising right there. Jeremy, Donald Trump saying that this isn't about politics. This is about corruption. This isn't about Joe Biden. And he's making clear, he says he's not concerned about Joe Biden. Your reporting is otherwise.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite, Kate, which is that we have known for months that the president has been consumed with Joe Biden's campaign for president, and he and many of his advisors have seen Joe Biden as the biggest threat to his re-election prospects. The president has long viewed Joe Biden's appeal in the Midwest among working white-class voters. He's long viewed that as a big threat to his re-election. So when the president says that he never saw Biden as a threat, he never thought he was going to win the Democratic primary, and he still doesn't, none of that is true, Kate, as borne out repeatedly by our reporting. And the president yesterday, once again, already let the genie out of the bottle when he talks about also asking China to investigate Joe Biden. And so as much as the president is now, banging that corruption drum, in fact, he is only talking about this case involving Joe Biden, for which there is scant to no evidence to back up any of his claims. Kate?
Great stuff, Jeremy. Thank you so much. Again, very much needed perspective when we have what played out again from the president on the South Lawn. Let me bring in Bradley Moss for a second. He's an attorney specializing in national security law. He often represents whistleblowers. Your law partner is representing the whistleblower behind this complaint. You are walled off from that, Brad. I always just want to say, I am very curious with everything that we learn, every development that comes out, but especially the first witness that's being interviewed, Kurt Volker, and the text messages that come out. You handle a lot of whistleblower complaints and you handle a lot of whistleblower cases. How does this one stack up? Of course it is unprecedented. You and I have talked about this, but the evidence that is coming out, that is being presented now.
This is complete validation of pretty much the entirety of what the whistleblower set forward. And I want to raise the idea that, a lot of people have always complained that the whistleblower process is flawed, it's deficient, it doesn't work very well, and it certainly has its issues. But this shows that the process can work if you use it properly, if you get proper guidance, and if you let the political powers that be do their jobs. The whistleblower brought the complaint, it went through the process, the details have come out, the political players are doing what they're supposed to do as set forth in the Constitution between these two branches. Nobody had to leak out the whistleblower complaint like an Edward Snowden or a Chelsea Manning, but the details have come out lawfully. And now we're getting a full public discussion on this. What ultimately results is neither here nor there as far as the whistleblower is going to be concerned. What matters is that we have accountability here and that the two equal branches of government are doing what they're supposed to do when this kind of concern is raised.
Brad, one of the things that came out about the whistleblower over a couple, so many developments, but let me hit on what I of course think is one that is getting a lot of attention, is that CNN is reporting the whistleblower went to the House Intelligence Committee for guidance first before filing the formal complaint. And this is something, is that normal to go to a committee first? And I raise this because I wonder if this presents any sort of a problem in your mind, because President Trump is making it a major line of attack.
Yeah, so this is all too common for individuals in the intelligence community who don't yet have qualified legal counsel on retainer, which most people don't have that kind of money to always have a lawyer around. So no, what the person did, they went originally within the agency, they thought they were being stonewalled, and it appears from reporting they were. So they reached out to the Intelligence Committee staffer for guidance, didn't provide a complaint, didn't provide the substance, sought guidance. And the Intelligence Committee staffer did exactly what was right, said, you have to submit a complaint through the process, and you should probably get a lawyer. They didn't recommend a particular lawyer. The whistleblower found a lawyer on his or her own, and the whistleblower drafted the complaint on his or her own by himself or herself. They didn't have the lawyers writing it for them. This is all deflection and distraction by the president and his media allies trying to make a mountain out of a molehill.
Let's keep some perspective, and let's bring it big picture one more time, Caroline, for you here with me. What we are seeing the president when he's speaking this morning, and everything we've seen in the last 24 hours with text messages coming out, what is alleged in the complaint is confirmed by either the president or the evidence or the details that are coming out, just as he continues to attack the complaint and the whistleblower as inaccurate. At the same time, so that's with Ukraine. And then you have CNN's new reporting that even before the president said yesterday that he now wants China to also investigate Joe Biden. CNN's reporting is even before that. In June, there was a phone call between the president and President Xi, and the president did the same thing. And that same conversation was also moved to that secure server. Just For perspective, because I heard Carl Bernstein say it today, when you see all of this coming out, what is coming together, he raised the prospect that he thinks that what we are seeing play out is now, it looks like a conspiracy led by the President of the United States, which is a very serious charge, of course. Do you agree?
It is a serious accusation. And when you read the text messages, certainly they do have a bit of a conspiratorial flair, especially that one where somebody says, wait a second, it looks like we're withholding aid to a fleggling democracy here contingent upon a domestic investigation into the president's political rival. And the person writes back, call me, right? Yeah. I mean, that's it. That's what I tell my clients to do. Don't put things over text messages. Also in my line of business, just as you noted, typically when misbehavior comes to the forefront, it's not the first time that it's happened. So now that we're hearing about this with China, there was a process in place. This looks like an MO. People around him were helping wrap this or keep this behavior undercover with the password-protected device.
But again,
it's all,
these are legal questions, and there are legal questions. It is a political process, though, that continues to play out. All of the focus not only on the president, now back to Capitol Hill. The Inspector General of the intelligence community is testifying right now behind closed doors. Much more to come on this. Coming up, though, we've got other big developments that are coming up in the